Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Mitch Simpkins, and this is Wins for Widows, where you get practical advice from the mouth of professionals who are all united in helping you get your feet back on the ground after the experience and the loss of a loved one. Together, we'll uncover the rooted question that you might be asking yourself, what now? And what do I do next? Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to Jason Clawson. Jason is a licensed therapist with a CMHC and an LPC, which stand for Clinical Mental Health Counselor, and a licensed professional counselor. He's located in Utah, and he specializes in grief counseling for the past decade after navigating the loss of his own wife. He created the Healing Team framework, which helps grieving families build a support network, and co-founded what he calls Hope Kit, which sends grief support boxes to those who have lost a loved one. He works with clients from grieving teens to caregivers in their 80s and 90s, and is a frequent speaker on grief education, which is actually where I met Jason.
I've been a clinical therapist for over 20 years. Of life circumstances, it led me to be able to be available and more help to those that are grieving. So it's an honor and a blessing to be here.
Yeah. I attended your presentation. It was absolutely impressive and very helpful and very well said, and a lot of great things mentioned. So I think too, we'll want to make sure that our listeners know about your Instagram page, because you're doing a lot of cool things on that. And we'll include it in the show notes. How could they find it easily if they want to see what you're doing on Instagram?
You can look it up at Light After Grief.
Light, Light, After Grief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Me and my wife
And
is also a widow, lost her husband to cancer as well. We created it to be able to offer more support, resources to kind of help people understand grief a little bit deeper.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we should have had your wife on with you, Jason. Well, as we always do, Jason and I met before, and we've talked about a few different things. So we'll run through some questions and just talk. And as we go, we'll think of you, our audience, and what things you might be experiencing or feeling, and try to really tailor our conversation around things that might be top of mind to you. So the first question really has to do with your experience and what you've seen. You counsel teens to people in their 80s. What patterns do you see in early grief, and how do you tell the difference between depression and grief? How do you distinguish between those two? What have you seen?
Same great questions all around. Like what I've noticed from working with teens all the way up to 80, 90-year-olds is there's not grief that is exactly the same. So we all grieve differently. And I think when we get in that space, a lot of people will give us advice or want to give us advice based on what they think was best for us. And sometimes that's not always the best advice. From early on is you'll see the fog, you'll see the struggles to disconnect. You'll see the ability there'll be loss of sleep is really common. Even for teenagers, you'll see a lot of ability to accomplish simple tasks. And I think across the board, those are really simple things that when someone loses a big part of their life, then trying to function again, it becomes really difficult. An analogy I give is think of like a computer, and you got all these windows that are open. And then when grief hits, you have another window that's opening. But with grief, the grief is sucking the energy out of your operating system. And sometimes we realized we can't do what we used to do. And that's why it feels foggy, or we can't complete simple tasks, because in the background is that grief that's draining our energy, and it becomes really difficult to manage, whether you're a teenager or you're someone in their 80s or 90s. And that's what's tricky with when I see someone, is it grief or is it depression? The thing that I try to go and talk about is with grief, there can be moments of a sense of normal where there's moments of connection, moments of laughter, moments of gratitude and hope. And just because a big part of their life has been lost and a life-altering event has happened, they can still have these moments where they're able to enjoy different parts of their life.
Mm.
And I think that's really good to identify with grief. But when it comes to depression is like this fog that comes across and just sits on us and doesn't move.
Mm.
And we'll see a lot of sadness, a sense of worthlessness, hopelessness, excessive guilt, feelings of worthlessness, like I said, and no longer worth living. And that stays for a long period of time. When I diagnose depression, you have to meet a criteria of how long it stays for.
Mm.
And that's usually a couple of months
Mm.
for someone to feel depression. So if you're feeling connection and laughter, gratitude and hope here and there, well, that's a good thing. That means you're not stuck in a depressive state. You're just in a grief state, but they can parallel and they can look really similar. So be careful not to get them confused, but there is hope in both situations to be able to get through them and coping skills to manage those.
Yeah. And I know one of the things we talked about was like growing through the grief or moving forward. I know for some who have lost, those words have to be carefully placed to not offend and to not make it seem like, hey, let's just let the past be gone and now it's time to move forward. Let's talk a second about language. What language should, for others who might not know a lot of grief and those who we may be teaching the language of grief, like what are some of those words that are appropriate? And for those who are grieving, what are the things that are most acceptable to them related to that, like growing through it or, versus moving forward, for instance?
Yeah, I think when it is implied when someone says you're moving on, it means you're leaving behind the person that was in your life. It means you're leaving on the memories and kind of moving away from them like you'll never see them again.
I see.
And with that, what the brain does is it kind of starts to activate some of those sad and lonely memories that keep us stuck and keep us in that really difficult emotional spot. So we have to be careful with the way we phrase things because again, it can imply those sad and happy memories. And that's Mitch, that's why I like to say grow through grief rather than we're moving on or we're going to get out of grief. We're going to grow through this because grief, we're always going to feel grief.
Mm.
I'm 7 years out from losing my wife, and this last holiday, I felt sadness for my wife, but that's normal process, but we want to grow through it. And when I say grow through it, we want to be able to, as these emotions come up, we want to feel these emotions and we want to let them pass. We don't want to feel them, push them down, avoid them, not talk about them. We want to feel them as they come in waves, and then we want to let them pass by. And what happens is what we're trying to avoid is that intense, sad emotions that we felt when we first found out about losing our person. As we feel those emotions, the intensity begins to decrease, and then we begin to grow through our grief, and we begin to build up kind of a tolerance of those emotions we feel.
Mm.
And it doesn't impact us. It doesn't cause us to avoid things or shut down or be sad for an extended period of time. It allows us to kind of feel those and make room for other memories and things that we're experiencing in our life.
Interesting. That is a really cool concept. But like anything, our ability to feel it, experience it, have it impact us becomes stronger. In other words, does the emotion and the challenge of it stay with us indefinitely? And we have just learned how to manage through it, live with it, create our life around it.
Yep, exactly. That's why we grow with it. It becomes a part of us. Grief isn't something like a car that we try out and drive around for a while and then all right, take it to the dealership or run it into the ground, it becomes a part
Interesting.
of who we are, and it becomes a part of our identity.
Hmm.
That when we come across someone, a situation, we have the opportunity to share and help another person through that process.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if we shy away from it, we shy away from opportunities to grow,
Yeah.
opportunities to connect, opportunities to laugh and cry with another person. And those are such good, memorable experiences that help us continue to progress and grow through the grief process.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, I love that. It's not something that's a checkbox that you just check off and say, done with it, over it, time to move on.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I love that.
And you don't, because there are so many blessings and so many opportunities to meet people, to connect with so many wonderful people. If we avoid it, push it away, or not embrace it, then we're missing out on an opportunity to enhance our life for the better.
Mhm. I think you were a counselor, but not specific to grief before the loss of your wife. Is that correct?
Yeah, I really dug into that after walking that path and after having moments where I was like, gosh, people are feeling this. I can't believe I'm going through this and people are feeling so lonely. They're feeling so isolated. And in my mind and in my heart, I'm like, I can probably do something to help people
Interesting.
with the role that I have.
Interesting.
And there's so many times where I can be present with people. I can say the right thing at the right time because of my learned and shared experiences of living that.
Mhm. And you obviously, this is your career, right? I mean, you were a
Uh-huh.
counselor, so the bridge wasn't terribly difficult. What about for someone who isn't a counselor, or how do they take that experience and have created with purpose, with meaning? Do you have any stories or suggestions or things that you've seen where someone has just had such deep grief that they found some way to help others or to utilize it as a way to bless others' lives?
I mean, when you go through it, being able to share it with another person that's going through it can deeply enhance your life, because you have the ability to talk about those emotions with someone, sit in their grief. And again, you don't have to be a trained professional, but being able to just sit with someone and have them share and allow them to have those moments of validation of their shared experience can go such a long ways in helping someone heal. I think a good example is my current wife. That by career she's an HR director, but because she's been through that grief process, when she ever hears about grief in HR, she has the ability to go with them in that deeper spot because she has felt that. She's experienced that, and she's able to ask the right questions at the right time
Mm.
to allow the important things to be shared and empathize in that very moment. And I think anybody that's been through it and walked through it, you can do that. But I think you need to be able to embrace that role and say, this is a gift that I've lived through, and I'm open to share it with people that need help. And I think that's kind of the law of attraction. Once you put it out in the universe, you start finding grief opportunities or people that've been through cancer. You start finding them, and it becomes such an amazing experience to talk about those emotions and have those wonderful conversations.
That's cool. That's cool. And we've kind of breached a little bit about beliefs. Another thing we talked about was belief in an afterlife before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how you said that in a lot of cases you see people who have that belief, and not everyone does, right?
Huh? Yeah.
That they tend to move through it a little differently than those who don't. So what advice do you have for those who don't believe in an afterlife? Are there things that are similar or other ways that something like that might be helpful to them as they're working through their grief?
I think an analogy I like to share, Mitch, with people, kind of help you understand the two, is think of someone at the Grand Canyon, right? And if someone has an afterlife belief, believes in God, believes in the afterlife, when you go through that loss, it's like the other person is on the other side of the canyon, and that is very difficult and hard. If we have a belief in the afterlife, it's like there's a bridge that connects the two sides together. And that bridge is like faith, and it's like hope that if we get on this bridge, it's going to be a lot of work and we might get tired along the way. But there is that hope. If we get on this bridge, we'll be able to be reunited and connected to our person again. And when people have that belief, it's like, oh, they're just over there. I just need to experience these emotions, and all I have to do is go there. But on the other side, when someone doesn't have that belief, it's like that bridge is not even there. And the darkness is heavier, and it's like someone has to recreate that bridge from scratch to get to their person. And think about a person that has to reestablish their routine, reestablish simple as like, I got to be okay with sleeping in a bed by myself. I got to be okay with an empty house. I got to be okay with eating dinner, celebrating birthdays without them. The construct of their life has just been extremely altered with no hope, and it's final. So when I work with people, you're almost reconstructing, like I said, that bridge or their life with try to find some things that they can look forward to, things that they can find purpose and meaning in their life, and to get some enjoyment out of their life, because the bridge is not there and everything is so heavy. And like I said, that sitting with those people that don't have that belief is so, there's a lot more tears. There's a lot more heaviness in those conversations. But I've seen people being able to do things that are like, I call it intentional grieving, that helps you find a purpose that is able to continue to fulfill or feel like that person is still part of their life.
Does the healing team concept that we've talked about, can that be kind of part of that ability to bridge? Is that a helpful method to them? And maybe for our listeners who don't understand the healing team concept, maybe tell them a little about that.
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of background. So early in my grief, I remember being at work and I hit this wall where I just couldn't take it anymore. I wasn't the best at communicating how I was feeling. So I sent out a text message to 15 of my friends, family, and neighbors. And I said, can you come to my house? I'm not doing very good and I need your support. And at 7:00 that night, everybody came to my house and sat around my living room.
That's so cool.
And I created my intervention for myself. And there I took off my mask and began to open up and share how hard grief was, how hard it was to be a single dad, how hard it was to work. And in that moment, I gave people permission to tell me what I needed to heal. And I gave them permission to help me in that process. In that intervention was born the healing team. And the healing team we had one team captain in the circle, and we came up with one code word. And whenever I got in a bind or a struggle, I would text one code word to the team captain, and the team captain would text everybody in the group, and everybody in the group would have an assignment that they could fulfill, a task. So for my parents, it was doing the laundry. For my neighbor, it was doing the mowing the lawn. There was others that would bring meals, text me, take the boys out. And this took pressure off of me when I was feeling it. That allowed my emotions to kind of reset and feel my emotions. And whether you're religious or not, this concept can work very, very helpful for anyone.
Yeah.
Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to take the heaviness and it's usually the tasks, trying to manage so much at so many moments of your life with dealing the grief. If we had a team that would come in and take those tasks off, it can give people the ability to breathe, the people to reset, the people to feel the emotions, to get a good cry and kind of work through that and reset so they can continue on. And eventually I got to a point where I could say, hey, Mom, Dad, I can do my laundry now. I'm okay now.
Maybe the word still works though, Jason. You should maybe keep trying it. Maybe they'll show up and do your laundry for you still. No?
I'm sure my dad would be happy to.
Such a cool concept. I think the other thing you mentioned to me that was really cool that I remembered about the healing team is that each one of them got to choose like something that they would do for you, right?
Exactly.
Based on their abilities, based on their skill sets, based on what they knew about you and what they think would be the best. Each one of them got to pick it, and literally with a text from the team captain, they knew exactly where to go and just jump into action mode.
Yeah, you want to give them a task that's easy, stupid easy, I say, to accomplish.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
you don't want to give someone that is not good with emotions to come over and sit with you. You want them, if they can mow a lawn and feel good about it, that's your task.
Yep. Yep. Let them live in the space that they're most comfortable, in a
Yeah.
space where they
Yeah.
feel like they can do the most. I love that concept. When you told me that, I was like, that's absolutely genius. It's kind of built around kind of the addiction recovery group, right? That similar concept there, but reapplied to grief. And I think it's brilliant. The emotional work needing to be done before engaging with finances. And what does that emotional work look like relative to those practices? And what advice do you give to a widow who just feels frozen or embarrassed or even just scared to death to connect with a financial advisor or any professional for that matter? You, right, as an advisor, consult or state attorneys or CPAs or anyone, right? I think there's this hesitancy to want. What makes that up, and how do you advise women through that to get to that stage?
I apologize if I speak in analogies, but like that's what relates to a lot of my clients. But think about like you broke your leg and all of a sudden you get the keys back, say go drive your car, but you can go 200 miles an hour. But unfortunately your leg is broken and you're not able to complete a task that maybe was so simple and easy before. And now you're needing some help, right? Like, and that could be like a counselor, that could be a financial advisor. And I think a lot of people don't want to lose that control of their life. So inviting people in can be so difficult to kind of take over. They feel like you're going to come in and you're going to start telling me and taking over. And maybe a financial situation is you're going to take over and you're just going to take over what I can't do and take away my power, my control.
Interest.
I think with widows is we want a sense of control in our life, but our life feels so out of control. And we try so hard to keep a sense of normalcy, but with the brain fog and with all the emotions that we're feeling, unfortunately, we can't, like if someone says, can you go take someone dinner? Like we can't do the simplest of tasks. So I think when we ask professionals for help, I want you to consider it's just kind of like a co-pilot that steps in the car with you with this analogy and is able to coach you and help you through that process. And so you're not taking away the power, you're just guiding them through that to be able to make those decisions because it allows them to still feel in control. It allows you to listen, but take the suggestions and start implementing into that very practice. And I think financially, what I've seen is people are all of a sudden they can't pay their own bills. I don't know the dates or the things. It just starts to get really heavy right away. All of a sudden you have to file for Social Security benefits. And all of this stuff starts to pile on them. Another thing that we have to work through or take on becomes so overwhelming. So it's so helpful to have a professional, but I think something that I found too is if you're hesitant to invite a professional into your life, guess what? Bring someone with you to bridge that gap. Like have someone in the back seat if you're going to go meet with a counselor, and I've had this many times, is someone comes in and sits on the couch with that person to help bridge the gap, to help them feel comfortable and safe to work with the person. And in a financial situation, that could be so healing. Another set of eyes, another set of ears to help bridge the gap and that conversation.
Yeah. Even if it's just as a note taker to be like, let me just take notes for you. Obviously, it has to be somebody you trust, right? Depending on the level of
Exactly.
depth of financial conversation that you're sharing. You don't want to bring someone in there that you don't want to know that. But I think, as you mentioned earlier, that brain fog is real. And sometimes there's things that are discussed that just get missed. I know for me, I take copious notes and make sure I'm sending that back to my widows to say, here's what we talked about. And here's 5 things we're going to do in the next year, 2 years. Here's the one that needs to be done now. The rest of them
Yeah.
will wait. But this one we've got to take care of today. The rest of them are going to be all right, but to help them see the path. And yeah, I mean, because I find it like you get done with the conversations and a lot of the stuff that you talked about, they don't remember having discussed the next time you meet with them for good reason, for all the reasons that you mentioned.
One thing that I encourage my clients to do is take your phone with you and record the conversation.
Great idea. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
helped. I tell them in medical, when you go in to talk to a doctor, hard conversations so that you can be present and you're not going to catch everything.
No. That's great. Great advice. Great advice.
I think also, Mitch, something to think in mind is I hear this so many times. It's just like, I used to be able to do this.
Mm,
I used to be so on top of things, and you hear this over and over again, but I think when we can say, "You did, but during this grief, this is your season. Your season is you're going through this, it's not gonna be forever." It's kinda like fall, winter, spring, but right now, you have to invite people into your life. You have to get some help to get you through this season,
mm,
so that you can begin kind of finding yourself, reinventing yourself, and growing through this so that you can feel comfortable about taking some of these things back and maybe be able to do them better than you ever have before
yeah. Yeah.
because you were
Mm,
open to listening, you're open to allow people to help you,
mm,
and such a vulnerable space to be in.
yeah.
And that's why it takes time,
Yeah.
but even bringing someone in to kind of bridge that gap again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's wonderful for me to sit on the other side of that and watch that evolution over time. And to your point, those that I've worked with who have a very deep grief, not that everyone doesn't have grief, but the real devastating ones that are just having a hard time getting up that day. The ones that are seeing a counselor who have seen a counselor, a therapist, you can see progress as they come back. You can see some things coming on. You can see a little of the weight a little bit lighter. And I think there's definitely an important space for counselors, for grief people, especially for like you, Jason, that knows it, that's been there, that can talk to it and can experience and completely empathize with it. So no, you're awesome. I learn more from you. You've got a lot of amazing training, amazing experience, Jason. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing your insights. If
Thank
this
you.
episode,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, you're
I
welcome. You're
really,
welcome. You're
again,
welcome.
I see it as a gift that I get to be able to share with people. I took on a new client the other day, and their experience, what they're going through, was my experience.
Mm,
And to sit across from someone, to be able to feel those emotions or sit with them is so invaluable to help bridge the gap to get them happier and healthier again.
it's awesome. And you're an important piece of that. For sure. So thank you. And for all those who are listening, if this episode was really helpful to you, share it with a widow that you know that's navigating this intersection of grief and finances, or someone who is experiencing loss. You can subscribe to the channel so it helps other people find the work that we're doing here. We're building a community where widows can feel safe, finding their footing at their own pace. And it's an honor to walk alongside you and so many of my guests that have been part of this wonderful podcast. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you.